getting the patients through, being efficient, getting our times down, our numbers down, and now it's time to kind of switch gears a little bit and see how we can see if we can maximize or optimize the ability to enhance our patient experience better. And I'm going to present about 5 things here that are designed to make that happen. The next slide, please.
Just hit the
I
button.
have it.
You're in control.
Okay. So why should you care? Why should we care? Well, there's the first reason is because we have a reputation. There's a reputation of CVP group. This group to our community, medical staff, and hospital administration. That's very, very important. They expect us to have awesome patient experience, and so that's the number one why. The next thing, noble professional and noble cause as healers and menders under extreme conditions. So that's another why. We are professionals and we are healers and we work under extreme conditions, and we need to be able to translate that to our patients. Government regulation. There's a new thing coming out called EDPEC that is analogous to the HCAHPS for the ED. Similar types of thing, listening well, explaining care, those kinds of things. And value-based purchasing, this is all CMS oversight. That's another reason. We want patients to come. We want patients to have a good experience, so they'll come back, so that we can meet some of these standards and thresholds, so we can get paid. The next is kind of bragging rights, recruitment and retention of emergency physicians and our nurse practitioner and physician assistants colleagues. When somebody comes here to work, we want them to know that there's a very positive culture, and this is one of our important core capabilities. So, a couple of things here, a couple of thoughts here, just to start things off. So, for any problem seeking a true solution, mastery finds the dots, genius connects them. And I think by the end of this presentation, you can all consider yourself geniuses. The mastery part, I didn't put this together in a vacuum. I've had a lot of help, and so we're all masters, and we're all going to be geniuses after this. The other thing is very sensitive to the fact that acronym without metaphor fades away. You just put something up there, JOHN, and it means this, and this, and without something that's really solid, has a solid foundation that you can kind of relate to, it kind of loses its effect. This is the Santa Maria del Fiore. It is it's a cathedral in Florence, Italy. It's been that dome, the base of that has been there for about 700 years, and that dome has been there for about 600 years. And 600 years ago, they didn't know how to put that dome up there. Typically, they would put centering supports inside the dome with wood, and then build a dome around it. Once the dome was built, they take the supports away. They didn't have enough trees in Tuscany at that time. This is back in 1410, 1415, to build this thing. So they needed somebody to build it, and it had to be in a particular way so that it would support itself as it went up. And you can see as you build this thing, if you don't have any support under it, it's going to tend to go in. So if you just look at this right here as a demonstration, this is the base here. These are the bricks here. And if you have these bricks and you put them horizontally and you just lay them horizontally around, what can happen is the mortar that's put in between here can crack. And as it cracks, if there's not a unique way to prevent that from cracking, it can crack all the way around and the thing falls in on itself. And it's interesting that you only have to move this brick about a quarter of its length to make a significant change in the stability of this. And so if you just move this over about that far, so you basically just move it over about the length of a brick there. And then you start holding up the ends like this. And this is called a herringbone pattern. You're going to see a little video about this in a minute. If you start doing this, what this does is it prevents the mortar from cracking and gives it internal stability. This is a key secret in what Filippo Brunelleschi, who was the architect of this dome back in the mid-1400s, came up with. So, for example, so you have these two here, and you're going to see how this all fits into the metaphor of the dome and how this fits into what we're going to do as far as initiatives for patient experience. Can we go ahead and play that? I've got like a 3.5 minute video that talks about this dome, the historical aspects of the dome, and it's very short and sweet, and I think it sets the tone for this.
Audio
Sound. You go back. Is that all higher it goes?
Yeah. Well, unplugging this and see. Oh. And somebody kind of turn the volume up on this end. The volume knob, yeah. No. Oh yeah, the video's playing, it's just there's no audio. Wherever this goes into has to be turned up.
Playing a sample, girl, and
That ain't it. So while they're doing that, I'm going to continue to talk. So basically, we went to a CEP Service Excellence collaborative back in February, and we as a group came up with basically five initiatives that we were going to start here within the next couple of months. And one was what's called care cards, and you have an example of them in front of you. And the care card corresponds to this brick right here. When you have these three bricks like this, and this brick coming down like this, the first, well, actually, this one, sorry, that's backwards. This brick right here is the care card, and then this last brick here is what's called the callback. And we've done callbacks before, but we're going to try to reinvigorate that with this initiative. And so the care card would be about a small card, larger than the card, it's about a 3x5 card. Here's an example of one right here. And the first page would actually have our picture on it. It has a little bit of information about us. It kind of gives us what our mission is with respect to what CEP would like us to do. And then on the back is kind of a little bit of a roadmap that just kind of tells the patient what they can expect, what we're going to do. And we would basically go into the room, and when we sit down or stand next to them and introduce ourselves and do the things we normally do, we would give this to them after we completed the back, and it just goes over some of the basic tests that we would do. It's been shown that this helps, and I have a couple of slides on this, but it just helps kind of set the tone and provides kind of the patient with a kind of an expectation, a roadmap of what we're going to be trying to accomplish while they're there. The second page you have there is actually
been challenged to build a great dome for the Santa Maria. Imagine this. It's 1418 in Florence, Italy. You've been challenged to build a great dome for the Santa Maria del Fiore, one of the grandest cathedrals ever built. And you have no formal architectural training. No pressure, right? For Filippo Brunelleschi, a goldsmith and clockmaker, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. He considered the challenge carefully. Then proposed a daring plan, using methods that experts don't fully understand even to this day. At the time, domes were often built as semicircles. But the town fathers required that Brunelleschi build an 8-sided dome that would be even taller and stronger. It would also have no central support system to hold it up during construction. Even worse, the dome's base was an imprecise octagon with no true center. But Brunelleschi had that covered. There would be 2 domes instead of 1, an inner and an outer shell, held together by giant brick arches and interlocking rings of stone and wood. The rings would work like hoops on a barrel, keeping the dome from expanding outward. To move heavy loads hundreds of feet up, Brunelleschi designed ingenious new machines, including an ox-driven hoist and massive lifting devices far ahead of their time. So, revolutionary design? Check. Groundbreaking engineering? Check. Can-do attitude? Check. But with no central support system, how would he actually build it? First off, the masonry would have to support itself during construction. To do this, Brunelleschi laced the bricks in an herringbone pattern, which spiraled to the top of the dome, with vertical bricks acting as bookends to hold the others in place. They laid about 1 row a week, giving the mortar time to cure. At this rate, the dome grew at a snail's pace of about a foot a month. But perhaps most puzzling is how he was able to place the bricks with such precision. Many experts agree that he used spiral ropes. One theory states that ropes ran from a flower pattern on the work platform that showed exactly where the bricks should go. Another has ropes running from the dome's center, tracing a series of cones that grew smaller as they ascended to the top. Still another suggests a different arrangement of central ropes and wooden templates. However it was done, it worked. The 8 faces of the dome met at the top precisely, just as Brunelleschi had planned. In all, it took 16 years to complete the dome. When he died in 1446, Brunelleschi left behind no sketches and no details as to exactly how he achieved his masterpiece. Today, it remains the largest masonry dome in the world, more than 500 years after it was built.
So that was just a synopsis of this idea here. This is one of the main secrets of how we did that. So this again just kind of demonstrates the forces on the dome. You have vertical stress and lateral stress, and there's 2 basic construction constraint burdens. And we see this every day when we work. This is just analogizing. If we have vertical compression of gravity that pulls down, the counterpart for the provider perspective is task saturation. That's that vertical stress we feel every day of having to multitask, etc. Part of the solution to that may be task neutral or decompression initiatives. Then there's lateral tension. It's called loop stress, where the size of the dome is actually pushing out laterally. That's the push out. Counterpart from the patient perspective is what I call snoop stress, and this is where the patient's sitting there snooping around. That's in parentheses, of course. And the solution is just snoop distraction. What can we do to distract the patient? And that's everything from just keeping them informed to doing things. There's a new initiative coming out for Dignity Health that is part of that thought. This is just an example of the herringbone pattern, and we'll relate that to these initiatives. The other thing I want to just get out is that this whole brick and mortar thing, this is the masonry of the awesome patient experience. If you think of the bricks as our patient encounter, it's the staff interaction, the good, the bad, the ugly. It determines what I'm calling the critical awe. Sometimes we talk about critical mass. Well, instead of critical mass, we call it critical awe. And this can go either way. This can either be an awful or this can be an awesome patient experience. And a lot of times it just depends on how we interact with them and what we do throughout their episode of care. Then there's the mortar. That's the ED culture, the values, language, and accountability that we have. And this helps. This is the glue that bonds our CEP service experience, or service excellence collaborative initiatives with the Dignity Way initiative. There's actually about a 4-minute Dignity Way video that we couldn't get on, but I'm sure we'll be able to look at that here sometime in the near future. So when you look at this model here, there's our model up there, and again the vertical brick bookend block cracks in the mortar from spreading. You have initially you have the care card where you're going to present them with the care card. I'm going to go over why is this important? Why should we buy into this? And then we have kind of the team assessment, the rounding with intent, team discharge. The front and the back of that we're doing to a certain extent, and then the back of it is the last bookend is the callbacks. Care cards, why? Well, this is a critical opportunity. It establishes patient trust, sets the positive first impression, personal gesture of courtesy, caring, and visit validation.
Just if I could reference the handout here. So
Yeah.
What is a care card? It's basically a postage card format size card. And these are on the table. Basically, one side is the photograph of the provider, a little bio, and the back side is essentially what the treatment plan is going to be that you customize for each patient and then hand to them.
This is a golden opportunity to under-promise and over-deliver. So you can tell the patient that we're going to do something, it's going to take a certain amount of time, and you can come back later and have it already done and wow them or awe them because it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes earlier than what they expected. Demonstrate noble commitment as a badge of courage or honor, as this thing will be when you hand this to them. It's like you're handing a piece of yourself to them. And I think patients really appreciate that. Task neutral to initial encounter with patient. Add to mapping path. Aid to mapping of the path of the visit. We're already going in, sitting down next to them, talking to them. This is just an extension of what we're doing, and it's more of a physical offer to them. So I think it's, for the most part, task neutral. Our scribes will be mind assist with card availability. I think that's important. And the expectation is to have 100% delivery. Not exactly sure how we're going to audit it yet. We either do it with card repurchase frequency or maybe shadow rounding, just to see what the proportion of handing out these things are. So that's the care card. That's the front end piece of this.
So any questions about that? How many of you currently use business cards? Nobody.
I do.
I have a question.
Oh, kinda.
No, I have a question.
Okay,
I sometimes use business cards, but,
yeah.
so what about a dental pain that would go in there and see them for 5 minutes and discharge them? Are we still doing this?
The idea that even RMing, even if you're RMing somebody and you're just seeing them for 30 seconds,
Okay.
you still give them your card and
Okay.
say, this is what we're gonna get started.
Okay.
And then they get back. You know, mental health patients, you know, it's a judgment call. You know, some mental health patients, it's appropriate, most of them it's probably not. But we've had very, as you can just see from a show of hands, very poor utilization of the business card. Some people just doesn't fit into their system. And what we're looking at here with these care cards, this is part of the Dignity Way, where we think we're doing a little bit better. In the Dignity Way, what happens is after the provider comes in and puts his orders in, Cerner prints out a list of all the orders and tests, and the nurse is supposed to bring that, take that printout off a printer, walk back in the patient's room, sit down, and then go through it with them. We think it's much better for the provider to go through it with them right there at the bedside and give them this custom care plan. But, you know, this is something that, you know, every single patient encounter, you're gonna be, you know, getting these cards out. And so this is something we need to discuss and, you know, throw glasses or pound the table or whatever, because, you know, we need to, when we roll this out, it needs to be consistent. And Dignity's gonna pay for the cards, and obviously, you know, how many patients do you see a day? That's how many cards they're gonna have to print. So it's gonna be a lot of cards and a lot of expense that Dignity's gonna pay. This format came from CEP, so CEP developed this care card format. It's been used in a couple other CEP sites and seems to be going well. For those of you that don't even hand out business cards, how do you feel about handing postcards out to every patient?
I like the idea. The only concern is that when they leave, like, their discharge instructions, they'll be kind of scattered in the parking lot. So from an ecological standpoint, have they thought about having a recycle bin? Like, as they're discharging the ER, if they don't want it? That way, you know, there's no
Yeah.
more trash on our
Yeah.
campus.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, set up some recycle bins on the, yeah, it seems they throw everything away and give them except their Norco prescription.
Right.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
The example of this gentleman,
Mm-hmm.
so is this like a number that goes to like,
So on our business cards, we have a number, basically, we have one phone number for all of us, and that phone number converts to an email and gets sent to Tiffany, and then Tiffany farms them out.
Okay.
But since we use as a group, we use very little business cards, so we haven't used that line very much. I'd like to propose a little different format than this, rather than these kind of canned statements about I will
Right.
strive to make your visit comfortable. I think I'd like to have some of our, you know, where you train, some, what your interests are, just some.
A little more personal.
A little more personal, because one thing that improves the patient-physician experience is that there's less of this big hierarchical difference. And so if you say, oh, you like the mountain bike? Oh, cool, I like the mountain bike too. Or, it just makes us more people rather than automatons. How do people feel about that?
Yeah, I think that, I don't like the
You know,
canned statements.
There's
Yeah.
gonna be times where you're not gonna be able to give it to the patient,
We're gonna hold
sick
it to
or
it.
whatever, you give it to the family, the family member.
I see it selectively being given to certain, my feeling is I would ask the family, hey, I have some information here, and would you like this, and we'll tell you about your visit, and if the patient or the family want it, I'll give it to them. If they're sitting there demented, drooling on themselves, or they're a psych patient that's beating up the security guard, I'm not gonna hand them this. For one, I don't want them to see my picture.
No, I
Yeah.
think you're
There's
absolutely right,
a
Bert.
slight selection.
But the experience is that the patients want this information.
Yeah.
And if you ask them, they may not know it, but they want it, and then when they get it, they might start looking at it. So, yeah, people that can't comprehend the information, if there's not a family member, of course not, they're not gonna get these cards. But anybody that can at least give a history of why they're there, and they should probably get it. And, there's gonna be a lot, hundreds of thousands of these cards, over the years that are gonna go out.
what do I need to do?
If I RME and I fill this out, and then they come to the back and you see them, are you gonna fill this out again? Are they gonna
If
get
I'm,
one on you
if
and
I'm,
me?
if I'm adding something additional, then I would fill that out.
So they potentially could have 2 or 3 of these by the
If
time
maybe
you-
before, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So what if we write down that they're getting a CT and then the doc in the back says, that's a stupid idea, I'm canceling that CT, and then they have this expectation that they're getting a CT?
Yeah, and hopefully hopefully you're saying, in RME, we're gonna get a CAT scan, and so, they already have that expectation. It's written down now, it's,
Yeah.
but wait, look, they said I was gonna get a
Yeah.
CT scan. That creates a little higher burden on us to appropriately order the test up front, and for us to explain to the patient, you know what, when you first came in, we weren't really sure what's going on, but now we've got your lab test back, and we've had a chance to evaluate you, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
This is why you don't need a CT scan today.
Not the girl in the front's a moron, right? Like that's
What's
not-
that?
We're not gonna, say, the girl in the front's a moron, that's why we're not ordering the
Right,
CT.
right.
Trying to add a little
Right,
comedy,
we're
so
trying to-
got a little tense there.
So
for
this
second.
is a big deal for us because we're not consistent about giving a business card. And those that do, I think, do it pretty consistently. Those that, it's either you do it or you don't. There's not a lot of middle ground as far as I can see. So, but this would be something where all of us are doing it. The size of the format makes it difficult if you don't have a scribe. Where are you gonna store these cards? The business cards, at least you can put in a scrub top. These won't fit in there. And so again, the expectation is that we staff the scribes 100% at Mercy, and part of their duties is to have these cards and to prompt the provider, hey, hand the card to them at the close of the visit, and they can fill it out. But for you guys in RME, depending on your coverage, you may or may not, you may have to have a stack of these just in RME with you.
Just gonna take the place of the whiteboards then?
Yes, so the whiteboards are gonna be, basically, replaced with more of an operational thing, whether labs have been drawn or not, what time they were drawn, whether urine's been collected or not, what time was collected, is more gonna be an operational thing for the lab techs and nurses to look at what has and hasn't been completed. And that's, I think, one of the Good Sam Hospital or somewhere, they had an example of that Brian Patrick really liked, so he's gonna order those.
How cool would it be if we could electronically connect those boards to Cerner and have it just pop up like a big green box if it was still needed, and then a check mark?
I still think each room should have a small
That would be really
32-inch,
cool.
40, whatever the size that people can read, and then information as the patient put in there comes up on there, and all this is electronic, so you can literally, say I'm ordering this, they can see what orders they have on them. They can, anything you want to
Instead
put
of
on there,
care
and
card, you can
it
just
has
turn
nothing to
to
do
the
with
board and
finding a
say,
card.
These are what we're gonna do for you.
I think the biggest problem I have with all this, and I think John does a great job, is that we have to figure out where move the meat and please the patient meet. Because I tell you, when I come in and I have to move the meat, I don't want to do this. And I'm just being really blunt about it. I'm happy to do this as long as somebody isn't telling me that my times are bad. Because my times will go up if I sit down, if I make the nurse come in, if I do team discharge like I'd love to, my times will go up. And I don't personally give a shit about the times, but somebody does, and that's the driving force. So somewhere there's a balance between expectation that we can do a job efficiently and fast, but also spend a lot more time, or at least a little more time, giving them information and making sure that, I can't see a nurse. Right now, I have a hard time just getting the nurses to do the things I want them to do, but if they're gonna print something out and sit down and go over it, I think that's a great idea. It's just that somewhere in here, something's gotta give. There's a finite amount of time.
Right.
And I'm okay with us doing all this. We just need the hospital and the patients to understand their wait times may be a little bit affected.
I would have added another slide to this in case, basically, because I've been thinking that too, and I think to a large extent, the hospital industry or the healthcare industry, when it comes to hospitals, they kind of have to decide, are you going to be in the hospital, service or the hospitality service?
Yeah.
If you want to be in the hospitality service, you need to pay for it. You need to have people that are dedicated to do those things. Let us do our thing.
Right.
Right? And that may include some of this.
Yeah.
But it's isolated, it's focused, and other people are doing, handing out this and handing out that, and, massaging this and massaging that. We're seeing patients, and we're moving
But
patients.
the answer, Bert, is we have to do both. We have to be super
Smart.
fast, and we have to make the patient feel special. And, the reflex answer is you can't do both. You gotta do one or the other, you can't do both.
Well, no, there's a balance.
Right.
I don't know where the balance, what
Right,
gives in
balance.
there, like time versus.
Right, and so, for example,
niceness.
so I hand a business card to every single patient counter, 100%, except unless they're intubated or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything to my length of stay because it's part of my assembly line process. And
Yeah.
so, for us to be successful and not substantially blow up our cycle time is to incorporate these things, maybe replace a standard phrase you use with this, or, something has to give, obviously, but, the idea is that we can keep this same operational performance that we have now and still spend a little bit more time, on doing, things that don't take very long, but from the patient standpoint mean a lot to them. You gonna say something, Aaron?
A couple of things. I think we really need to be careful about any more tasks or burdens placed on the nursing staff, because we're having a hard enough time getting the critical stuff done,
So
the
at Mercy,
patient care stuff
at
done.
Mercy, unlike all the other Dignity hospitals, the nurses aren't gonna be doing that printout. Why? Because we're doing this instead. So these care cards basically relieve the
Tell 'em what.
nurses of that cycle to the printer and back to the patient room, which I think is a dumb idea. I don't think that was a good idea.
No, they need to be doing patient care.
Right,
I mean,
so, but, and Deanna Gunner's like, wow, it sounds like what you're doing is better, but, Dignity kind of wants every hospital to do it exactly the same, so we're saying, no, we've got a little better idea that we're gonna do, but we're gonna have to do it. And otherwise, we're gonna have nurses printing out dumb printouts.
And I think, as you mentioned, I think it's gonna be critical that we have full scribe staffing, because, when I'm 10 deep in the lobby and I've got 5 patients still that are in beds that need to be seen, this is not gonna be real high on my list of things that I remember to do.
Right, and even if you're hustling, if you have a scribe that says, okay, well, you're
I mean, they can
making
fill
your
this
parting
out for
statements,
you.
They can just, shove this in front of your face, I'm Dr. DeVoyson,
Yeah.
CT, you're in, here you go, and I'll be back in a little bit. Now that, you're gone, but you're still there with them, your picture's there, your plan is there, I think the
Yeah.
perception from the patient is that you didn't just, blow in like the wind and out. But this is, so for customer experience, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end. The beginning's important, the middle kind of gets a little bit forgotten, and then the end is important, and that's why the team discharge is so important. We'll get to that now. But the opening is important. Set the expectations, set a timeline. People hate waiting. We all hate waiting, but we hate waiting even more when we don't know what we're waiting for or what's taking so long. Why isn't the airplane taking off? What the hell? Why aren't we rolling away from the gate? And then the captain gets on and says, oh, one of the seats needs to be repaired. Like, oh, okay, one of the seats needs to be repaired.
But we figured out when we do the RME to make the 20-minute or whatever the time is, what our times are from when we actually take care of the patient and do something that is meaningful to them. Because I'm starting to hear just a little bit of people that I see that I know that have been in our ER that say, it's really great you guys see me right away, but I sit for 2 hours in your lobby. So you meet some kind of thing, and they don't even know what we're meeting. But somehow I'm still waiting 2 hours. And that's what, I'm not sure, I feel this, like we're falsely feeling like we're faster than we were before, or more efficient, when I think we're just making the numbers good. And
Right.
I just want to know that we somehow are we improving that time to finally get them, with the front end the way it is? Does it feel like we're moving patients through the department in a more efficient manner?
I mean, we're seeing way more patients
Yeah.
with less provider hours, so.
something has to
We're more
be
efficient,
working
we're 1.91 patients per provider hour, when it used to be 1.3.
That's a big difference.
And our door to discharge time for level 4s and 5s has dropped by like an average of about 30 minutes per patient. So the 4s and 5s are getting in there much faster, in and out much faster than they were before. That number's creeped up a little bit since we stopped discharging from RME, but still is nowhere near what it was when we started. Our biggest issue is the level 3s, and it always has. We've made 0 progress in the last 2 years on our door to discharge time for level 3s, and that's where this rounding of intent is going to make a difference. Stephanie.
I think if the explanation's made in RME, like I try to say, so I'm with just one of the providers that's going to see today, and make sure that you're stable. And what happens is I'm going to order some of the tests that you won't have to wait for later. So hopefully, when you get to the back and the doctor has his hands on you, he also has a lot of the information that you would wait
So you
for.
give them a positive message that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm getting things moving for you.
Yeah.
Right.
We all try to do that, I think.
Glass half full.
Yeah, right. So
It's
you might
full
wait, but
without-
by the time you see a provider, he'll have a lot of the information that
That's important.
They're
That's
not
hard.
too happy though when you come out of RMU 2 hours later and see them, they're like, well, why couldn't you do this one?
Right.
You saw me 2 hours ago.
Right.
Well, I noticed this when I got my oil changed at Jiffy Lube or whatever. The person, because it took a little longer, they figured out how to, at a certain time, they come and just make you do something. And you feel like you're moving forward, even though really, you would have done all that at the end, but they kind of divided up, so then you kind of feel like you're being paying attention to
That's
somewhere in there.
distraction.
The
That's
distraction.
distraction.
Oh, and this is your air
You wanna
filter.
see progress, you
Yeah.
wanna look out the
Royal
window
Oak
and see the
That's
trees moving.
Right, exactly.
past you. You don't wanna look out and see that same tree. It doesn't matter, if you can, then go 100 miles an hour to the destination, you still wanna keep creeping along, so.
It just feels like there's something we could do in that lobby, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like the lobby is where, if we had a comedian out there, or we had something that keeps them engaged, because like you said, I think the trees stand still there. It's an abysmal place. I still haven't disguised myself as a homeless person, but I've wanted to just go in there with a beard and a recorder and just record all the comments and walk around while people are, what they're saying about, like, why is it taking them so long? Because I know what I say when I wait.
That escalates in that middle lobby a lot.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, the dissatisfaction, they feed off of each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
In
In
the
there.
middle,
Yeah.
in the middle lobby, we're, because that's the room that, our room for our donation.
Yeah.
So Pam is, I think, close to finalizing, putting a big screen TV up in there, or a flat
Yeah, we just have to meet with Roger
So-
Page.
So basically, there's gonna be content in
Something.
there, different stuff, distraction,
Whatever.
jugglers,
Yeah.
pony rides, that's,
Happy petting
that
zoo.
stuff works, but,
It's already been
So they're
put
gonna
there
print a big
sometimes.
wad of these, just like our cards, and then we'll
right. so
store
we
them
won't-
somewhere?
We're not gonna order any more business cards, we'll just
Okay.
have to find some, basically take over some shelving, and this will be everyone's care cards, it's gonna take up a lot of space.
Yeah, this
So,
looks like a lot of
I
cards.
I don't think it needs to add a lot to our, a lot of the stuff is stuff we should already be, I don't necessarily tell them how long each of these things is going to
Right,
take, but I do
right.
tell them, hey, we're getting an EKG, an X-ray, we're gonna do some lab
Right.
work, and then I'll come talk with you the results, and then they can look at this card and hopefully my scribe has checked off all those things that I just mentioned,
Sure.
and, that,
Yeah, the scribe could actually.
If you
fill
took
those
out the
things
front
out.
page and just had this, you don't have to worry about having custom ones about. I know there's this whole,
Yeah.
here's your picture,
Yeah.
but man, if you had this, you could have 1,000 of these stored away, and then everyone grabs
But
one.
we're not paying for them, and.
No, it's not the paying, it's
I
the
know.
convenience for, I have to go look to find, I gotta get my
But
stack
there's-
and
but
stick it
there's-
somewhere.
You're
and it's
missing
not
the
gonna take up a
intimacy
desk
part,
space.
the connection, so we want the patients to feel connected to us.
A human
Know who we
connection.
are, right, and,
So they
so
can
this
stab
is
me in
breaking
the
down that
front.
barrier, and, this, some of you may be rolling your eyes thinking,
What's
oh,
the
this
name
is
on
all
your
just
badges?
for dignity or
Do
whatever.
you have to?
This is a risk management
last name's
tool.
on the
If
card.
your patients,
Yeah, it's-
think you care about them, think you listen to them, think you diligently did what you think was best, even if you totally fuck up, you're not gonna get sued, because, you're a good doctor that just made a mistake, versus, just, not having any connection, they never saw that you like to take long walks on the beach, whatever the case may be, then it's more of an adversarial.
So our story has to
relationship.
be really, my dog died last week,
Yes,
and
yes,
please feel
yes.
sorry for him.
Yeah. I have 6
going
kids,
through a hard time
I
right
have
now.
6 kids with
But I missed
cancer.
your MI, I'm sorry.
All right, John.
So we talked about care cards, and once
like
again, just to reemphasize, each one of these is an opportunity to awe the patient. It's, okay, we're gonna go on to team assessment. This is part of the team care concept, and this is the second brick right there, and more eyes on the target. This is where patient comes in, and we basically just swarm in with the doctor, the provider, the nurse, the tech, and any other ancillary that needs to be there, so that we can all get the same flavor of things. So the why here is more eyes on target, faster recognition and treatment of dis-ease for the patient. Everybody has kind of their various perspectives on what they're looking for. Accelerate care with simultaneous provider, nurse, and tech assessment. Patient-centered attention via team input to care plan. So we all have a piece of that. Team input to care plan, which is this concept of core comfort, optimized by workload coordination via bedside communication. So we're all there, we're all communicating, We may all be seeing different things because of our different perspectives, but then we continue to communicate and it gels. Expect the pod boss RN with provider for initial assessment, if that's true.
So we all know how well this works, so like code blue comes in, or, something comes in, everyone's in the room, you call it what you want, and stuff happens really quickly. And the expectation is that, every patient gets a team assessment. We're already doing that now in RME. We've got the nurse back into the RME room to do triage in the RME. At the same time, at least we've made a lot of progress in that area. So this is a big nursing culture change, because the expectation from nursing is that our provider's never in the room by themselves. So the provider goes in the room, a nurse goes in the room. And part of this is going to depend on communication. We don't have a good way right now of knowing when a new patient is being bedded. It's just kind of scanning the screen, and often it takes a long time for them to move from the lobby screen to the bedded screen. So we may use radios or some kind of conference calling, but for this to work is we want to be efficient. So new patient in room 14, if that goes out to all the 3 providers in the main ED, voice and I'll take it. Then Bert goes to the room, does the team assessment, and we're one nurse short of fully staffing the department, so there's actually a true pod boss for every section, and Brian's gotten approval to hire that additional person. So probably by May, we'll have the full team up and running, and then that's when we really want to roll this out. But between now and then, we want to do some trials where basically maybe on half the department, we'll do trials of team assessment where, hey, new patient of 14, the provider and nurse go in there and then start building up towards that. But the expectation is that if you're doing a lumbar puncture and you hear new patient of 14, then you're not going to be able to be there. We'll do it the old way. But then when you go in, that nurse comes in with you and you talk to them and then you say your plan. Because when Aaron was talking about telling the patient about we're going to get an EKG, we're going to get labs, we're going to get this and that, he's not really talking to the patient. He is, but he's really talking to the nurse and the tech that's standing there listening, because that's a much more efficient way to give orders than to go into Cerner and type them up and then have them follow up on this. So this team assessment, I think, this and the rounding with intent is what's going to finally crack the nut of our level 3 patients to get stuff done earlier and more efficiently, so we have data back sooner, and hopefully going to act on that data sooner and get the patient discharged.
Jesse, I think I've been doing a lot of comparison between St. E's and Mercy, and why is it that I love working at the smaller department. And a lot of it has to do with structure and feel of the department.